Good afternoon everyone, welcome to episode number 6 of Muscle Gain Mondays, and today we're going to go left field a little bit. We're not going to do a recipe, there's something I wanted to kind of clear up. So I want to talk about carbs today, and more specifically the carbs I like to use and why I feel they're very important, especially to a muscle gaining diet. So I watch a lot of videos, I'm sure you guys do as well. I love watching videos on guys like Kai Green and Jay Cutler when he was still competing. When you do like the day in the life series and you follow them around and you see what they eat in a typical day, and I'm always astounded at what these guys eat and how much they can put away. But one thing they sometimes do, not always, but sometimes there's an oversimplification that ridiculous amounts of protein are necessary. Now when you get to their kind of size, I guess in a way it is necessary because of the sheer amount of body weight that they are trying to fuel. And obviously the amount of food you need to eat is directly related to how much lean muscle you have on your body already. However, when you're a new kind of athlete starting out and you're trying to gain lean muscle, you could be kind of tricked into thinking that you need to be eating, like 400 grams of protein a day to get big. And the truth is, that's not necessary. So if we take a look at this scientifically, there are no studies, certainly none that I've read, that lend any credence to the idea that if you have anything over 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, that you will gain more muscle by doing that. So 2 grams per kilo is pretty much the maximum that is ever recommended in any paper that I've read. And there is even debate as to whether or not you can go that far, whether your body can use that much. So I don't want to get into that today, but nothing that I have read says that anything over 2 grams, or it's proven that anything over 2 grams means more lean muscle. So if you think of that in terms of calories, so for a 90 kilogram male, so I weigh about 90 kilos at the moment, that would mean 180 grams of protein per day would be the maximum that would be worth me eating. So that's 720 calories. Well, I also know that if a 90 kilo male is looking to gain any kind of noticeable muscle mass, he's going to have to be eating probably certainly over 3,000 calories a day, maybe even going up towards 3,500 calories a day. So if you're getting 720 from protein, that is a big chunk of calories that you're going to have to get from elsewhere. Now you can obviously up your fat intake, but anything over 100 grams of fat a day is arguably, again, not going to do much good for you. You're going to be excreting most of that anyway. So that leaves us with carbohydrates. So I think it's really important that I go through some favourite carb sources of mine, and more importantly, guys, how you can use them, because obviously it's no good just pointing at a bunch of different foods and then saying eat these. You kind of want to know, well, what can I eat them in, how much realistically am I going to be able to eat, and obviously that varies depending on the individual. So the question that needs answering here is, what are your favourite carb sources to use and how can you effectively use them? So I'm going to try and answer that question for you now, guys. So starting from my left, rice, big favourite of mine. White rice doesn't have to be whole grain, they're very, very similar. What I like about rice is the amount of carbs you get per 100 grams. So 100 grams of dry white rice is 85 grams of carbohydrates. I can't think of a food that's not entirely sugar based where you can get that many. So big fan of the rice, can go in multiple meals. You use it in curries, you can use it in Mexican food like burritos, stuffing the burritos with rice. Tastes great, can be reheated, or can be eaten cold once you've cooked it and it goes down a treat. Very easy to digest as well. One warning I would say is obviously 100 grams dry is well over 200 grams cooked, and that can sometimes be quite hard for certain people to eat. So be aware of that when you're using rice, okay? Next on we have pasta or spaghetti in this situation. Again, doesn't really matter whether it's whole wheat pasta or whether it's the egg pasta. Very similar calorie and macro breakdown. What I like about the spaghetti is, again, it's very easy to cook like the rice. You just leave it to simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. Goes in with a lot of good sauce dishes, so Italian style food like spaghetti bolognese. They're from a couple of weeks ago on Muscle Gain Mondays. And again, can be eaten cold afterwards or reheated, and there's no danger there. So big fan of that. And we're talking 75 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams of spaghetti. And I must admit, compared to the rice, it's probably easier to eat 100 grams of pasta once you've cooked it, so obviously it ends up weighing more. It doesn't seem to hold as much water as the rice, making it a bit less filling. Next up, guys, this is a little bit of a dark horse. We've got our mini wheats. Now, these are not frosted mini wheats. These are, fruit infused mini wheats. These are blueberry. 80 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams. So that's an amazing amount of carbohydrates per 100 grams. And I have to say, by far the least filling of the things on this table. So if you're looking for a snack and you want a quick carb hit, 100 grams of this with some 1% milk and you've got 80 grams of carbs ready to go. This with the protein shake, it's basically a mini meal and you could definitely eat again a couple of hours later. So really good for when you're trying to get large amounts of carbohydrates in your system. Finally, guys, it's not an obvious one because in terms of 100 grams of it, it's actually quite low in carbohydrates compared to the other three, but I like bananas. I'm a big fan of bananas. 100 gram banana, probably got about 30 grams of carbohydrates in. But where bananas hold the advantage, obviously, is they take no preparation whatsoever. You just unpeel them and eat them. And also, you should be trying to get fruit and veg into your diet as often as possible, really, especially when you're trying to gain. You want to be in a good balance. You want to be getting your micronutrients in. Good source of potassium, bananas, as well as being a good carb source. You can use them for flavouring on pancakes. You can eat them as they are. You can put them in shakes, which is something I certainly like to do. And again, you could eat 2 or 3 bananas and not even notice. So if you wanted to get the carbs up, you could have more than one. You could have 2 bananas in a shake. That's 60 grams of carbs. Add the milk to that. You're getting those carbs up there, and you've still definitely got room in a couple of hours' time to eat like a proper meal. So, guys, those are probably the 4 that I use most often. But don't forget, you've got your white potatoes and sweet potatoes. 100 grams is about 25 grams of carbs there. But again, that's almost nothing. You could easily eat a 250 gram sweet potato baked and you wouldn't even notice. So good sources of carbs there. Don't be afraid to use simple sugars. I'll probably do a video more specifically on the sugars, but again, sugars are only bad for you if they make up too much of your diet. But as a supplement with the rest of a balanced diet of carbs, sugars can be very, very useful when you're trying to gain muscle mass. So guys, I hope that was helpful. Like I said, I'm probably going to follow this up with more videos explaining some of the specifics. But I just want to go and do something a little bit different today and kind of answer a question that I certainly used to ask and I hope other people are asking as well. So as always, guys, if you like what you see, subscribe to the YouTube page, click that thumbs up button, leave any comments of recipes you'd like to see involving these carb sources, and I will definitely get them done for you. I'll see you guys on Friday for Fat Loss Fridays. As always, this is Paul from Get Yours Online Training. Have a great week, guys. See you soon.